These three things are something cause the insurance market to fail. Okay, so we will look at one by one, but in different order. So first, let's look at the adverse selection. Okay, what is adverse selection? Adverse selection is from asymmetric information. Asymmetric information simply means that the parties that are engaged in transaction has different amount of information. Okay, so one party knows more than the other party. Then we call that's the situation of asymmetric information. Okay, so that asymmetric information can have actually two different types. Okay, and not types, different kinds. One is often called hidden type. Second, we call it hidden action. Okay, and hidden type is actually adverse selection. Hidden action is the moral hazard. Hidden type it simply means that one party knows his or her own type, and the other party doesn't know his or her own type. What does it mean? It's like okay, in this case, low risk and high risk. For example, let's say the insurance company is trying to sell you a car insurance. Okay, and then actually, if you look at the drivers, there are drivers who are very careful, and there are drivers who are not that careful. Like speeding and all those doing things that can cause accidents. Okay, but in most of the times the drivers know what kind of type he or she is. Okay, so the driver knows that okay, I'm a careful driver, and the driver knows that I'm actually not that careful. Okay, so if you ask somebody about their preference in driving, actually you can easily find out that who's careful, who's not. But insurance company does not know. Okay, so that's the type. That's we call it the hidden type. Okay, and it's related with adverse selection. And hidden action is this way. So hidden action is something. So I bought a car insurance. Okay, I drive it. And I may actually choose whether to drive carefully or whether to drive less carefully. Okay? So it mentioned in the radio broadcast, okay, it's a homeowners insurance. Homeowners insurance basically in the US covers lots of things that's happening or around the home. So usually it's the case that in the US, I think in Korea as well, but I have never bought a house. So in the US, as far as I know, you buy a house, usually you use mortgage. Okay, you basically borrow money from the bank. And the bank actually makes you to buy home owner's insurance because the bank want to protect the home. Okay? Because I mean, if it's on fire, the bank will lose the home, right? Because it's basically, it's partly owned by the bank because bank loaned the money. So they buy so a lot of homeowners buy the homeowners insurance, and then as the broadcast says that there are things that are covered, and not covered things for the bad box, right? It talked about it. So actually people can be less careful and buy things like buy secondhand furniture from somebody you don't know, or and then it can have like a bad box. I mean, that's a very nasty thing that you have at your home. So bad box, and then you just bring bad box inside home, then it's not covered. Because to treat for bad box, actually you have to call the exterminator, and then they come and then they foam the whole home, and then you probably have to stay in a hotel like for 2 or 3 nights for the whole thing is to be finished. And obviously it costs money. Okay, so the homeowners insurance, however, does not cover for bad box. Why? Because they don't want people to bring things that can cause bad box problem in their home in the first place. Okay, or it's falling objects. You don't they don't want people to put things that randomly, whatever, and then they just don't care because they have home insurance, home owner's insurance, and if something happens, then the insurance company have to pay for it. Okay, then why it can happen? Because the insurance company cannot know everything what you're doing, right? So if I'm a driver, I may drive very carefully. I may drive carelessly, but the insurance company cannot know whether you are driving carefully or whether you are driving not that carefully. Okay? Then if that's the case, then we call it the hidden action. Hidden action. Okay? And hidden action is related to the moral hazard problem. Actually, the hidden act, and then if you understand the hidden type and hidden action, actually you can understand lots of things what insurance company is doing. For example, like in Korea's car insurance, it's quite often that they give you discount, car insurance, they give you discount if you install a camera, right, inside your car. So this camera basically records the actions of the car, right? Then it can give you discount. Why do they give you discount? Because it can lessen the problem of what? Hidden action. Okay? Because by looking at their the recordings, they can easily figure out actually who's responsible for if something happens. So then the insurance company can, reject your claim or pay for your claim. So it basically, and then also obviously that it will make the drivers to drive much more carefully because everything is recorded. So there is no hidden action. So then the drivers will drive carefully as long as the insurance company says if the accident is caused by certain type of driving, then you are not covered, something like that, or you are less than fully covered. So you can see that what's happening in the insurance market, and then you can use these two things, then you can understand lots of things. And also you can understand why some insurance should be not sold by the insurance companies, but managed by the government. Okay, now that's the story that we're going to talk about. First, let's look at adverse selection. It's a hidden type. So we define two types. Okay, one is low risk type, and the other is called high risk type. Low risk type has lower probability of accident. High risk type has higher probability of accident. Okay, so you can think of this one as like a careful driver, this one as like a careless driver. Okay, or these are like homeowners insurance, like living in places where the earthquake can happen, and living in places the earthquake rarely happens, something like that. Now, so we define, so we see the accident probability is lower for low type than high type. Okay, and then we actually know the population mean of the accident probability. So we lump all of them together, and then we can calculate the accident probability is P. So P is obviously between PL and PH. Okay? Now, so expected utility of an individual of type I, type L, or type H is simple. It's basically the same as the previous one, but we use, like now if you're type L, then you're 1 minus PL times UY1 plus PL times UY2. H, type H, high risk type, also thing. Okay? Okay, so expected utility indifference curve of type L is steeper than that of type H because of the difference in L and H. Okay? So type L has steeper indifference curve than type H. Okay? So this is the situation. Okay, now let's think of it. Now let's assume for the time being that insurance company knows exactly who's high risk type or who's low risk type. Okay? Then they know PL and PH. What can they do? Actually, it's pretty simple. What can they do is that if somebody shows up and tries to buy an insurance policy, if the person is high risk type, then you sell that person high risk insurance. So it can be basically you charge more because this person is high risk type. So if it's actuarially fair, and then if we assume there is no loading, If it's actuarially fair, you charge PL, okay, for the premium, PH for the premium for high risk type. And for the low risk type, you charge PL, okay, if it's actuarially fair. So, and then we know that given actuarially fair insurance with a particularly competitive insurance market, low type will buy full insurance, high type will buy full insurance, and so everyone's happy. Okay, so it's a steeper and flatter, and then, there's nothing much. Okay? So what's different is the high risk type just pays for higher premium. Okay, so this is a situation where there is no asymmetric information. Everybody knows the type. However, so okay, if the buyer type is known, the two types are put into separate insurance pools and fully insured at the competitive equilibrium. Okay, they have just separated. Now, however, let's say there is a problem. The problem here is, let's say the insurance company does not know who's high risk type or who's low risk type. Okay, that's the usual situation. You don't know whether this person is a careful driver or a careless driver. What you can do, actually what you can do is you can use population mean of the probability, accidental probability. You just assume it's just a mixed bunch, okay? So we use the average probability. So you offer a policy that has, let's say, this one, so in between. Okay, it's a high risk type, low risk type, just in between, using, let's say, the population mean P. Okay? So you offer a policy this, and then it's possible that low risk type chooses point P, and also high risk type chooses point P. So if that happens, okay, then two types are pooled into one policy. Okay? So it could be a situation P. However, there is a problem with this diagram. What is the problem? Okay, let's say one company is offering, let's say, insurance policy P, hoping that they can sell the insurance to everyone, okay, including high risk type and low risk type. And if high risk type, low risk type randomly, so you sell the insurance to the high risk type, low risk type together, okay, and the proportion of high risk type and low risk type who buy your insurance, okay, is the same as the proportion of those two types in the whole population, then using probability P is not a bad idea, because your insurance customers are basically like the whole group of people, and then let's say the whole group of people, there is a probability of accident of 10%, you just charge 10% premium, then you will be okay. However, so that's the situation that this company is hoping. Okay, we sell, let's say this is 5%, 20%, let's say we sell 10% policy, and we attract everyone. Okay, then we even out, because everyone, and you attract them, everyone, that's going to be 10%. However, actually, it's likely that there will be another insurance policy, another insurance company that figures out, actually we can offer Q, policy Q. What is policy Q? Okay, the policy Q, first thing is that this policy Q is attractive to low risk type, but not the high risk type, right? Because if you think about it, if the high risk type has a choice between P and Q, the high risk type will choose P. You look at the indifference curve. And then low risk type, now which one does low risk type prefer? Q to P. Okay? So the low risk type actually will choose Q. High risk type will choose P. Now, if the insurance company offers policy Q, then it will attract only low risk type. The insurance company knows it will attract only low risk type. Plus, the premium it's charging is actually higher than PL. Okay? So if the insurance company charges premium like this one, then it will be even out. But if the insurance company charges premium at Q, actually it charges more than probability of PL. So actually Q is actuarially unfair policy to low risk type, which means the insurance company can actually make profit out of Q. Why? Because it can attract only low risk type and then charge more than the probability of accident for the low risk type as the insurance premium. Okay, so you can charge like say 7%. Okay, if it's a 5% probability of accident for low risk type, Q is like charging only 7%, and then attract only low risk types. So you can make money because there is a difference of 2%. Okay, what does it mean? It means policy P will not exist. Okay, why? Because if that happens, then an insurance company selling P will have only high risk type, right? Because all the low risk types are going to Q, so they have only high risk type. And then now they charge actually too low premium compared to high risk types. High risk types have probability of let's say 20%, but you are charging only 7% because you are assuming that you have both high risk type and low risk type. But actually what you have is only high risk type. And then you are charging too little for the high risk type. So this insurance company will go bankrupt because later they found out that you have too much accident than you expect. Then obviously you lose money, so you go out of business. What does it mean? It means it is not possible theoretically to have point P. Actually, you cannot have an insurance policy that can attract both high risk type and low risk type. Because if there is a policy that attracts high risk type or low risk type, what always can happen is that another insurance company always can sell the insurance policy that will attract only low risk type and make profit. Okay, why? Because that's the reason is that because their indifference curve is different. So when they meet, there is always this section. So you can sell insurance policy that falls inside this section, then you will always attract only low risk type, and then you will make money. So it means point P is unstable. It cannot be sustained. Okay? It cannot be sustained. It actually means in economic jargon, it means it's not an equilibrium. Equilibrium is something not sustainable is not equilibrium. So what we say, so this is the summary of what I just said. If the buyer type is unknown, there is no comparative pooling equilibrium. Pooling equilibrium is an equilibrium that pools high risk type, low risk type together. But there is no such comparative pooling equilibrium since a policy such as Q attracts the type L individuals only and makes the insurer. Insurer is an insurance company. Insurer is the one who sells insurance. Insured is the one who buys the insurance. Okay, so it makes the insurer profitable. Okay, so it means there is no pooling equilibrium. Okay. Then what's possible? What's possible is obviously the possible thing can happen is the separating equilibrium. So type L and type H, they are separated. Okay. But it's not that easy to separate them together. Okay. Now one possibility that we can see is such as like TL and FH. Okay. TL is here, so this is for low risk type, and FH is high risk type. Okay. How it is possible? It is okay, think of TL and FH. Okay, and then there is a, let's say, company that tries to sell like a policy M. Okay. Now, when you look at the policy M, what happens is high risk type likes M, right? Compared to FH. Okay. And low risk type also likes M compared to TL. So everyone wants M. Okay? So M is a potential, and also M is a potential to pull everyone into this policy. Okay? And then is actually from the it can actually attract the both types, but the problem here is that this policy is not profitable because the premium, actually if they pull both, then they have to charge a premium along this line. But this one is actually the premium is too low. Okay? So what does it mean? It means there is no company that is trying to sell a policy like M. Okay? So which means that once you are settled in FH and TL, actually you can be quite stable. Okay? Because no companies try to disrupt FH and TL. Okay? So this is a type of separating equilibrium. Okay, if you look at the separating equilibrium, okay, what happens is actually the low risk type buys actually very little insurance. Okay, so low risk type buys very little insurance. Okay. High risk type buys full insurance. Okay. So this is a situation. Now, if you look at the actually more interesting situation, is something like this. In this case, now what is different is, now look at the point G. Okay. What is interesting here is that if you look at FH and TL, okay, and then you actually do the same exercise. There is a company that tries to sell point M. Okay. When point M is sold, then high risk type, low risk type both like them. So they will be pooled together here. And also the insurance company will make money because the insurance premium is higher than this line. Okay? So this line shows the probability of whole population. So M is actually selling the insurance that is higher premium than this probability. Okay? So what it means is there is a possibility that insurance company tries to sell a policy like M, and then you'll attract everyone into it. Okay? Okay, so this is the one. If the buyer type is unknown, okay, the first thing is this. Okay. Okay, the first thing, so first case is that if you have this type of case, so there is a, basically the thing is that if there is, most of people are high risk, okay? So that's why that this probability is very close to pH. Most people are high risk, and small number of people are actually low risk. And then if that's the case, if the buyer type is unknown, a comparative separating equilibrium such as FH and TL may exist because any pooling equilibrium, any policy that like M cannot be offered by the insurance company because it will make loss. Okay? But if most of the people are low risk type, okay? And then actually there is a probability, there is possibility that policy M like this can be sold. So if the buyer type is unknown, then there may be no comparative. So FH and TL is not an equilibrium because it will be disrupted by point M. Okay. So what you can say is that okay, FH and TL is not an equilibrium because point M will make this equilibrium just unstable. So it's not unstable, so it's not an equilibrium. However, M cannot be an equilibrium because there is no pooling equilibrium in the first place. So in this case, what we say, basically in this case, there is no separating equilibrium nor pooling equilibrium. Okay, pooling equilibrium cannot exist in the first place. In this case, even separating equilibrium cannot exist. So depending on what is the proportion of high risk type and low risk type in the economy, you can have a situation where if there is a low risk type, more low risk types, then you can have a situation where this economy has no equilibrium. Okay. So that's basically, very well known conclusion of adverse selection. If there is an asymmetric information problem with hidden type, and in this insurance market, there may not be an equilibrium whatsoever in the economy. Okay. Also, you can apply it to something not insurance market, but to some other markets that have same problem of hidden type. Like probably if you know the market for lemons, right? That also has the same problem with the adverse selection. There is no equilibrium. Okay? So basically same thing. So what does it mean? It means asymmetric information problem of hidden type can actually make this type of insurance can be very, very difficult to exist. Okay? So if it does not exist, then sometimes it's okay, but sometimes it has to be fixed. Okay? So first thing, that is asymmetric information. Now let's move on to a little. Okay, so this is with the adverse selection. There may be gaps in coverage for the low risk types. Low risk types. The first thing is the low risk type has very little insurance. Okay? This low risk type would not buy insurance for the high risk type because it's too expensive. Or there may be no coverage altogether. Okay? Because there is no equilibrium. Now, second implication of adverse selection is this. Since there is a high risk type and low risk type, and if the insurance company can figure out who's low risk type or high risk type, insurance company actually can make money out of it. Right? It's very important for the insurance companies to know who's which type. So insurers actually try to screen out potential high risk types. Okay? But actually it's not possible to exactly know who's high risk or who's low risk. So quite often, okay, they have all these different criteria to find out. For example, if you try to buy a car insurance, for example, then they will look at your driving history, whether you had an accident last year or the year before. And if you have had multiple accidents, the insurance company will not sell the car insurance to you. That happens. Actually, that happens all the time. That happened to me, actually. I had 2 accidents in 1 year. I had some years ago. Then the insurance company called me that, okay, you are not welcome anymore, so go somewhere else. Okay. That's actually standard practice. If you had like 2 or more accidents for the past 2 or 3 years, then lots of insurance companies will not sell you a car insurance. Okay? And you have to actually buy a high risk type insurance that charges you more, because now you are classified as high risk type, so your premium will be higher. Okay? That's actually quite common. Or if you want to buy like a life insurance, okay, that gives you money. Or let's say you want to buy insurance for specific disease like heart failure or cancer. If you're a smoker, they will not sell you an insurance, because it is well known that smokers are high risk, at higher risk, having cancer, having stroke, having heart problems, having whatever. Okay, so if you're a smoker, then they will not sell you that kind of type of insurance. Okay? And then you cannot fool it because actually it's very easily tested. Okay? They will test your urine, and then your urine will give you will have the trace of nicotine actually for a long time. So if you're a driver and you want to buy it, if you're a smoker and you want to buy an insurance later, okay, you have to quit right now, okay, because they are not going to sell you that type of insurance that related with health risks. So why they do that? Because they are trying to find out who's high risk type and who's low risk type, and try to sell the insurance only to low risk type or charge you more if you are high risk type. Okay, then you have seen that not knowing the types causes lots of problems to insurance companies. Okay, so if that happens, obviously that will prevent some individuals from being insured privately. So simply they cannot buy the insurance. So it can be a big problem for health insurance, for example, because if you think of let's say you are a private insurance company trying to sell the health insurance. Let's say health insurance, what it does is that it pays for the medical cost. You go to a doctor, you have an operation, let's say you have a cost, and then it's covered by your insurance company. Now, from insurance company's point of view, it obviously makes sense to sell the insurance at a different price to different types. For example, you are a very healthy young person. They will charge you less, not that much, because there is not much of probability of you getting sick and something. But if you are disabled, okay, think about it. Let's say if you're born with some health problems, let's say your heart or whatever, okay, and and smokers also, okay. So if you think about it, lots of people actually will be rejected by the private health insurance company. If health insurance company can decide whatever they want, because they will screen out all those high risk types. So babies with, let's say, babies with let's say some type of disease, okay, let's say heart problems, and then they will not be covered. Okay? And it's hugely expensive to care for those babies with serious health problems. Okay? Or if you had, let's say, serious health problems while you, let's say, 10 years ago, they will not cover your, medical costs. It can cause lots of problems to lots of families, lots of people. Okay? So if it's a car insurance, it's still a problem. But if it's a health insurance, it can be a huge problem. Okay. So that's the part that if you think about it, then somebody should do something about it. Okay? If it's a health insurance problem, somebody. So obviously, there's a risk that somebody should take. So that's a basically big justification for national health insurance system. Okay? Because national health insurance by law cannot reject anybody from being covered. Whatever you have, those kind of health problems or not, it doesn't matter. You are automatically covered. Okay? So that's the first thing that we talked about. Now, second one, correlated risk. So it talks about a lot in the homeowners insurance policy. Why do they cover the loss by war, by flood, by natural disasters, certain types of natural? It's not covered because the risks are correlated. Okay. So basically the same idea that so if the occurrence of a bad state for one agent increases the probability of bad state for other people, okay. If there's a war, then your home is destroyed, then everybody else's home is likely to be destroyed. Okay. Then the insurance company we call it the risks, correlated risks. For example, like contagious disease and the war and stuff. Also, there is unemployment. Why? Unemployment is correlated risk because when the economy goes bad, lots of people will be unemployed at the same time. Okay. Crop failure it's an agricultural issue. Crop failure, if the weather is bad, then crop fails everywhere. Okay. Now, from insurance company's point of view, this is a bad thing. Why? Because the payout can be huge. Okay. Obviously, if you are covering war, then war actually happens, then your insurance company will just go bankrupt in an instant. Okay. Unemployment can be the same thing. You are covering unemployment of some people. Well, if the economy is okay, then it's okay. However, if the economy goes bad, let's say suddenly 5%, 6%, 7% of people become unemployed. That's a huge number. And then you have to pay out the insurance at the same time, insurance money. So that is a bad idea. Okay. Insurance company, obviously we listen to the broadcast, it basically works best for independent risks. The risks that is not related with each other. Your home has a fire, but my home has nothing to do with it. Okay, it's just independent occurrences. It's easy. Then you pool the money. What is insurance? Basically, it's a simple idea. We pool the money together, and if something bad happens, we give the money to that person. Okay? If nothing happens, then you don't get anything. The money is used to somebody who has a problem. So, okay, then if they figure out that what probability that this is happening, then they can figure out how much you charge and everything. But correlative risk, everything breaks down because now suddenly half of the people has to have money. Okay, obviously we don't have that money, so that's a problem. Okay, so that's what I just said. So that's an insurance market failure. So what we talk about, unemployment, for example. So unemployment, private insurance companies are not likely to cover unemployment because if there is a big economic crisis like Korea's economic crisis in 1997, the US economic crisis or world global economic crisis in 2008, you see the millions of people suddenly lose their job. Okay? So you don't want to cover that kind of risk. So, but unemployment is a serious issue if you think about it. If let's say the main owner of a home gets unemployed and suddenly has no income, it can cause lots of problems. Not only the private problems, but it can cause lots of social problems as well, right? Because so many people are unemployed at the same time and they don't have enough money to support themselves, then the consequence for the society can be really, really brutal. Okay? It's really bad. So we need something to cover against unemployment. And private insurance company would not sell it, so the government comes in and not sell, actually force you to buy unemployment insurance. Okay. Okay, that's why the most countries have national unemployment insurance. Okay, now last thing is moral hazard. We want to talk about this hidden action. Okay, that's it. So it's a moral hazard problem. Obviously, if the probability of accident or loss from it's basically the same. So a buyer of auto insurance may drive recklessly. So what happens if the insurance company, when you sell the insurance, you thought that probability of having car accident is 5%. But it turns out that the buyer of your car insurance just drives recklessly once they get the insurance policy. Now suddenly that probability is, let's say, going up to from 5% to 10%. Now what? You just are making a loss because you sold the insurance assuming it's 5%, but it turns out to be 10% because everybody is driving recklessly. Then if that problem is serious, obviously that is a big problem for the insurance companies. Okay. It is moral hazard is actually very, very common. And there is actually good research about, for example, auto insurance. People do drive recklessly. I mean, people do drive less carefully when they have insurance compared to when they have not insurance. Okay, it's a known fact. Okay. So, at health insurance, also this is another issue, the health insurance. A buyer of health insurance may choose to undergo an expensive medical test in case of a sickness. If it's covered, okay, what they do? They just choose to have a treatment, okay? And then, no more expensive. Okay. So when they sell the insurance company figures out, okay, each person, they probably the cost like $1,000 every year. But it turns out because everybody now goes to doctor more often, if something happens, okay, I should go to doctor because I don't pay anything. Also, if they have an option to have cheaper treatment and expensive treatment, and if expensive treatment gives you a little better chance for recovery, everybody wants more expensive treatment because it costs you nothing. Okay? Then what happened? The insurance company will just find out that the expectation was wrong. Okay, they are making a loss. Actually, that's what happened to actually Korea's insurance companies that sells this supplementary medical insurance. Okay, when they say that every time they, that the supplementary medical insurance that pays for the costs that are not covered by national health insurance, so they are making a loss actually because people are actually spending too much for their medical expenses. So that's a problem. So moral hazard is very, very common problem. So if the moral hazard happens, okay, obviously we listen to the program. Basically, insurance policies most of the insurance policies are written to reduce the moral hazard problem. Okay, they don't cover such and such and such. If they don't cover, if you do that, something like that. For example, like when you go on a travel, let's say if you go on a travel, okay, nowadays lots of actually people buy traveler's insurance, okay. I mean, or actually when you go on a travel with our university trip, actually the university buys insurance for all of you actually. The insurance policy, and then let's say if you have an experience of going to foreign country, then let's say you try to buy a traveler's insurance for your trip, okay, out of this country, and it's not that much. I mean, the cost is actually quite low. But every time when you try to buy insurance, there is a questionnaire, right? And then what it says is one of the things that are you going to participate in sports activities? They are not going to sell you if you're going to be in a sports activity. Why? Because there is a higher probability of injury, okay? So they are not going to sell you the insurance policy if you're going on a sports trip or something. Probably you have to buy a much more expensive policy. Probably there is some insurance company that try to sell you, but I doubt it. But anyway, okay? So that kind of case. That's obviously that moral hazard issue because, they go and then they go on let's say, on a, I don't know, a mountain biking and then got injured and then broke some bones and then, obviously that costs lots of money. Okay, so what usually happens for moral hazard problem at the insurance company? The insurance pays lower benefit if the insurer does not exercise due caution. Okay, so there is a clause that you have to do and do and do this. Okay, for example, if you buy a homeowner's insurance, you should not, let's say, have an open fire inside your home. You cannot have campfire inside your home. No. Why? Because obviously it will increase the probability of your home getting fire and then burn down, and you cannot do that. There is actually clause something like this. If you do that, we are not going to cover you. Okay? That's the thing. And the standard way of doing it is actually the insurance company will ask the insurer to share the costs. Okay? Because if the insurer does not pay for anything, it will increase the probability of acting carelessly. But they may have this deductible. What is deductible? Deductible is simple. If something happens, then up to a certain amount, you are on your own. Let's say, you have a health insurance. Okay? For every year, for example, up to $100, we don't pay for anything. So for the first $100, you have to pay out of your own pocket. Okay? So it means what? That this person would not, probably would go to see a doctor less often because they have to pay for the first, let's say, certain amount of money out of their own pocket. And second is co-payment. Co-payment is this. If something happens, you pay 10%, I pay 90%. So insured has to pay a certain portion of the damage. Okay? So if you go to see a doctor, and then 10% you pay yourself. We pay 90%. Actually, that's what national health insurance actually does. You have experience in Korea, if you go to see a doctor, you usually pay a certain amount of money. That's actually co-payment. Okay? Why do they do that? Because they try to discourage people from using the insurance policy too often. Okay, and then obviously it's the best way is to prevent this thing happen, but it's very costly. Okay, and as you listen to the program, sometimes it's not possible to think of every possibility and then write down in your contract. Okay, sometimes impossible because insurance buyer's action is not perfectly observable. I mean, people do really stupid things that it's not unimaginable. It just cannot be imagined, and something happens really. So insurance company cannot just write down everything. Okay. So if the moral hazard problem is obviously a big issue, so that will increase the insurance premium. Why? Because they have to prepare for certain issues, so they will increase and limits the insurance coverage, right? So something is covered, something is not covered. Okay. Or sometimes discourage insurance from offering the insurance altogether. Just we are not going to sell any insurance. Okay. Because this one has just the potential of very high moral hazard problem. Okay. So that is the situation now. Social insurance. Social insurance programs are compulsory. Compulsory means that you have to do it by law. I mean, basically, you cannot just avoid it. Okay, why does it have to be compulsory? Because adverse selection problem. If this unemployment insurance is voluntary, think about it. Who's going to buy the unemployment insurance? The people who are likely to be unemployed or people who plan to be unemployed. They are the first ones to buy the insurance. And let's say if you are not likely to be unemployed, if you think for a long time, you are not going to buy the insurance. Okay? So if the private insurance company cannot make you force to buy the insurance, but the government can do, right? To force you to buy the insurance. That's how they can actually mitigate the adverse selection problem. Because they don't care about your type because everyone will be inside. Okay? So it's like adverse selection problem solved. Okay? And contributory. Contributory means that you have to pay for it. It's like insurance policy. You have to pay for it. It's not welfare. Welfare, you don't have to pay anything, right? The government will give you money in exchange of nothing. But insurance is an insurance. So it is actually financed by mostly by the insurance premium paid by the covered people who are forced to buy the insurance. So for example, national health insurance, if you don't pay for it for a certain period, certain length of time, the coverage stops, you know. Okay? I think it's like 3 months. If you fail to pay for the premium for 3 months or something, you will receive a notice that your coverage is suspended. Okay? And if you go to the hospital knows that you are suspended because the system is all linked. You know, we are living in a linked society. So they charge you the full price. Okay? So it's a contributory programs. Okay. And corollary risks, because the corollary risks, the problem is much lower in this social insurance because it can cover everyone. It covers everyone, which means that even if its risks are correlated, it's limited to, if you think about whole population, if it's unemployment, it can be pretty small problem relatively, even if it's correlated. So they can spread the risk better than private insurers. And so corollary risks can be, I think we have to stop today. Yeah. Okay. And we will continue our discussion next.